Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will call the Common Council to order. I will ask our clerk to call the roll.
Alderperson Lysick.
Here.
Reinke.
Here.
Rote.
Here.
Stefanski.
Here.
Tenorio.
Here.
Vitale.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
Grisham.
Here.
Haas.
Here.
Keen.
Here.
10 present.
We have a quorum. Please rise if you are able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led this evening by Alderman Lysick. We have two public hearings this evening, but before we dive into those, I just wanted to touch briefly on the mask situation. We do ask, in accordance with the state order, that you keep your mask on. However, if you do need to speak, either as a council member speaking to staff or the public, or if the public needs to address us at the microphone, you may take your mask off to speak, but then we just ask that you keep it on when you are in your seats. Thank you. Going to public hearing number 1 under item D on our agendas. I will ask the clerk to read that.
To convert taverns, cocktail lounges, and alcohol sales from special uses to permitted uses, creating section 9.025 and amending sections 12.40, 12.41, and 12.43 of the West Allis Revised Municipal Code.
Thank you. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item was before the council on July 14th and sent to the Planning Commission for decision. And the Planning Commission recommended that it be approved. Basically, the ordinance that's changing taverns and places with alcohol beverage sales, packaged beverage sales, from a special use to a permitted use within the zoning ordinance. And the intent of this is to streamline the process for businesses to get into business. It makes full use of the Wisconsin state licensing, and it also it protects the city as well. There's still going to be oversight by the Common Council, the Licensing and Health Committee, to take into consideration the context of where the license is going to be, the applicant's location and the surrounding neighborhood. Public hearing is definitely an option for the Common Council, and but that ordinance states all of those things and offers those protections. Planning Commission has recommended approval, and it's before council this evening. We're recommending the council pass the version that the Planning Commission reviewed, and Planning Commission basically accepted what was presented to them from council. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the Common Council have questions on public hearing number 1? Okay, seeing none, are there any members of the audience that have questions or comments on public hearing number 1? Seeing none, we will close public hearing number 1, and I will ask the clerk to read our second public hearing.
Resolution relative to determination of application for a special use permit for Endless Motorsports LLC, a proposed indoor vehicle sales, use, and accessory shop to be located within a portion of the existing multi-tenant commercial property located at 2200 South 108th Street.
Thank you. Mr. Scher.
Thank you, Mayor. The location is Highway 100 in Grant. This is a commercial multi-tenant strip mall. The former location of Hunt's Flooring, who is relocated from this location further south on Highway 100, is available for lease, and AJ Conkle of Endless Motorsports is interested in leasing the property about 2,600 square feet on this site in the very north end cap of the shopping center. Currently there's 2 other tenants within this shopping center, and there's about 30 parking stalls on site. The purpose of the special use is for an indoor power sports sales store, selling everything from ATVs, UTVs, wave runners, and motorcycles. There will be no repair work done on site. All of the vehicles will be coming in through the front doors. There'll be a new door that would be created on the front end of the building, a double door access way on the front for access to the showroom. About 3 vehicles at a time would be sold from the location. The hours of operation are roughly between 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. It varies a little bit during the week, but those are the outer extent of the hours on a 7-day week. About 30 parking stalls overall, 8 are required for this use. There is an existing landscaping plan for this property, the perimeter landscaping, refuse enclosure behind the building. So we feel it's in pretty good condition. There's no additional landscaping that was recommended by the Planning Commission. The alley will not be used for deliveries. There are refuse containers back there, and those will be used for, normal commercial refuse pickup. But the business is really intent, and heard from the neighborhood, and is really intent on maintaining, delivery and pickup from, through the front doors. And that's how most of the deliveries take place on site right now. Any FedEx or UPS deliveries to the other businesses on site are coming in to the parking lot off of Highway 100 and then exiting typically in the same manner. Planning Commission has recommended approval. There have been since two concerns from the neighborhood revolving around noise, loitering, concern about racing, and then also concerns about obstructing the alleyway with commercial business. So we have a letter of intent from the business owner, who's also here tonight, to if you have any questions, to sort of go over his business. But Planning Commission has recommended approval, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to help answer.
Thank you, Mr. Scherer. Do any members of the Common Council have questions or comments on public hearing number 2?
Mr. Mayor,
Alderperson Grisham.
I have a question regarding the business. Does this business plan to have or hold any events where there would be a surplus of motorcycles that attend, such as like tent events, things like that?
I don't, I guess I don't have the answer to that question, but certainly we could perhaps ask Mr. Conkle to answer that.
Okay. You can go up to the podium.
Our primary business is going to be off-road power sports, so like ATVs, UTVs, things like that. So we don't plan on holding any excessive, like, I know we've been asked about motorcycle nights. We do not plan on doing any of that stuff. The parking lot isn't very big for doing stuff like that, and I know that being in a residential neighborhood, that would not be a ideal situation.
Okay,
So we may participate, sponsor outside stuff, but not hosting on site.
Okay, my question arises for constituent complaints or concerns about that, so
Okay.
I feel better to know that there won't be any motorcycle events
Okay.
and that you're respectful of the residential areas. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Oh,
Alderperson
one sec.
Keen.
I have a question. For the sales of motorcycles or ATVs, will there be any test driving, or is it sold as is?
Sold as is, it's all used power sports units. With the off-road units, obviously, those can't be operated on the road. We have been in talks, I was talking with Steve, about being able to relocate them via trailer out to the Muskego area where there's some land. But that is something we are in talks of. Motorcycles, there's a lot of liability if people test drive those due to accidents, maybe not having experience. It's a little bit different than a car market. So at this point, we don't plan on doing any test rides. Our insurance has some very big concerns with liability as well. So it's not worth the risk at this point. As is going to be our typical thing, and we'll give people, maybe a 5 to 7 day grace period. If they do have an issue with it and it's not working out for their needs, we'd return it, but not just letting people come and basically beat on or drive stuff.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the members of the Common Council?
Mayor Devine.
Alderperson Ranky.
being an alderman for as many years as I have, I do recall that you do have another location, is that not correct?
A separate entity of a business, yeah, it was a vehicle performance shop
Right.
over off of 109th and Mitchell.
109th and Mitchell.
Yep.
And I guess I'm a lot concerned about this particular location. Will you be having the rallies that you have indicated in the past at this other location?
No, this,
Rallies were very, very noisy. It's a dead-end street, and the cars would, when you did have the rallies, were very, very noisy. And I received several complaints at different times with these rallies. However, what are you basically going to sell at this location?
it will be used power sports units, so like your ATVs, your UTVs or side-by-sides, wave runners, snowmobiles, motorcycles, dirt bikes. Being that it's a relatively small showroom, we're looking at having 8 to 12 units at a time on the showroom floor. We don't have any intention on doing anything like the other business where we had like open houses and things like that. That's kind of a completely different industry, even though it's still vehicle-based. This is a different.
The people that purchase these items, will they be going through the neighborhoods to try them out, we'll say it that way?
No, there won't be any test drives with any of these. If they purchase them, most of them are off-road use units, so they have to trailer them when they leave with them. The way the parking lot is set up, it encourages exiting out on the Highway 100. I believe that was done by previous planning commissions, just to curtail that from happening. So there really is only one true exit from that parking lot that is on the Highway 100. People shouldn't be going into the neighborhood. There's, on the north side of the street, it says exit or entrance only, so it should discourage anyone from going that way. We would never encourage anyone to use the neighborhood to go through.
One of the complaints was that you're very, very close, you're on Highway 100. Highway 100 is really been inundated with cruisers. This year has been the worst year that I can remember. The cruisers have caused a lot of problems in the neighborhoods, and we get a lot of complaints from the people that live in the households, in the apartments. This business, well, I would say will accentuate that problem. It's an ideal place for you to locate on Highway 100 where there's motorcycles, loud motorcycles, and cars, speeding cars. I commend you for choosing that location. However, because you chose that location, I'm a little concerned. I went on the internet and you're already stating that you have the store. I mean, you don't even have the permit, so how can you advertise that you have a store already in that location? So that is concerning as well. Highway 100 to me is a magnet. It's a magnet for all these loud motorcycles and racing cars. And the kids are using it, you might say, for entertainment. I would predict that selling motorcycles at that location would even accent it even more. So the reputation of Highway 100 has cruisers attracted. It's a magnet, definitely. And my concern is that your business would attract even more of these kind of customers that relate to noise, a lot of noise, and the racing cars on Highway 100.
Well, and for that particular reason, that's why we do want to make sure we are shut down early in the evenings, and we aren't going to promote any hanging out or congregating in that parking lot. I know most of the cruising starts in the evenings, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, and we'll be completely closed, not open for any kind of business. And our ideal demographic for this business isn't the, I guess what you'd call 18 to 25-year-olds. Yes, they do like motorcycles, but when it comes to the side-by-sides and the off-road, you find a lot of 30 to 50-year-old guys that like to hunt, things like that. That's a big market for these. A lot of times the younger kids can't afford some of this stuff because it is fairly expensive these days. So that's not what our target demographic is. The reason for Highway 100 as a location is obviously the retail traffic that drives by, that we're hoping will make it in a centralized location compared to some of the other dealerships in the area, and hopefully, obviously, be successful that way.
So you don't foresee that you will have any gatherings of the youth
Nope.
on site? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor Devine,
Alderperson Rote.
we didn't catch your name because you didn't give it to us.
Oh, I'm sorry, my name's AJ Conkle.
Okay. And question for Steve, and you were on 109th and Rogers,
109th and Mitchell.
Mitchell, okay, and that's right behind like the tile shop, I believe, that,
Yep.
was this not the same group that had that dyno tester in there and we kept asking them to get sound walls and you were just kind of royally saying, no, we're not. And you were disturbing everybody in the neighborhood.
Well, that location, Alderman wrote, AJ and had worked with us and the health department to minimize the sound by installing some baffling within the building, sound insulation, after some of the complaints that were received. So it did work out. The special use for that location was approved, maybe in 2017, I think. But
It was a while ago, but
yeah, but that location was ultimately approved by the council, subject to a lot of oversight and sound insulation through the special use process. But you are correct, yep.
right, but it was, my understanding was it was a battle to get that sound insulation, correct? Maybe
I-
not a battle, let's go struggle.
Understanding, I mean, I think there was a Endless Auto Sport at that location on Mitchell Street had hired a sound engineer to analyze, the output, the decibel readings, and that was shared with our health department. So there was quite a bit of work that went into that, but in the end, I'm not aware of any recent complaints, more recent complaints after that sound insulation was installed.
Thank you. And I guess I keep hearing the word shouldn't instead of won't, like they shouldn't be doing that in a parking lot instead of they won't. So maybe we have to make that a condition of the special use at the committee level.
Yeah, I would not be opposed to that, whether, I don't know the solutions other than signs saying no loitering when we're not there. I don't know if there's other suggestions. We're definitely open to anything like that. I mean, the big thing is I want to work with the neighbors in the neighborhood. If there's concerns from previous tenants, which it sounds like it was alleyway blocking, we're definitely trying to make it livable for everyone.
And Mayor Devine?
Are you done, Alderman Rote?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
said thank you. Thank
That's
you.
all right, no worries. Thank you. Alderman Haas.
Yeah, and just for clarity, do you still own that location on Mitchell Street or have any involvement in that?
Some, yeah, but it still had some involvement. There were two partners that purchased that about 2.5 years ago, and they were the owners of it. Since then, we have sold the what they call a chassis dyno, and they've discontinued all labor services over there. It's retail only, and there's a new business trying to acquire occupancy. I believe they're in the midst of it right now.
Okay, so that one is not Endless Auto Sport, at least not in
No.
name anymore.
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mayor Devine,
Alderperson Ranky.
will you be selling items that embellish the sound of these motorcycles and cars? And then having the people install them on site?
There will be no, what I would call mechanical labor on site. It's strictly a retail showroom. I mean, no wrenches, screwdrivers, anything like that. It's, we aren't performing any services on site like that. It's retail sales only, like if you would go to like Target and purchase something. With the parts and accessories we sell vary from wheels, tires, seats, exhaust, things like that. So people purchase that and then they put them on themselves.
Okay.
We aren't performing any upgrades or anything on site.
Your customers, do you foresee them traveling through the neighborhoods in the area versus on Highway 100?
I do not see them turning into Grant with the way our parking lot is structured. You come in about a half a block south of Grant. That's the entrance and the exit, which is what the co-tenants share with the nail salon and the finance place. There is a entrance that goes out onto Grant right there, but it's supposed to be an entrance only if someone turns from south on Highway 100. I believe that's why they put it in and it angles so people should not be going to the right. There is a sign that says exit only, entrance only, and they're supposed to go out on the Highway 100. So that, I'm assuming, was put in for that exact reason, but I do not foresee that people should be going that way if they're following the traffic signs.
I commend you for working with the neighborhood, hopefully, about the alley, because they have indicated that children play in the alley. If you're not aware of that, that's a commendable act on your part to just allow the motorcycles to come through the front entrance.
Yeah, and I don't foresee us needing to use the alley other than for literally our garbage refuse. That's the reason for putting the entrance on the front of the building, so nothing needs to be back there and blocking anyone or disturbing anyone, because I was told that that was a major concern and an issue in the past. So that we wanted to basically attack that head on and make it so it's not an issue.
I think the neighborhood is most concerned about the noise.
Mayor Devine?
Alderperson Grisham.
I want to thank you very much for answering all our questions. I really appreciate you going into the detail that you have, and if approved, I wish you luck.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the members of the council? Hearing none, are there any comments or questions from the members of the audience? And if there are, please let me know and come up to the microphone. Seeing none? Okay. Seeing none, we will close public hearing number 2. We will now move on to item E on our agendas, which is citizen participation. This is the opportunity for the council and I to receive information from members of the public during this 30-minute period. We ask that you keep your comments to approximately 5 minutes as we aim to keep this portion of our agenda to a half an hour. We would need your name and address if you need to address us. Is there anybody that wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening?
Hi. I'm Susie Roundy Schmidt. I live at 740 South 103rd Street. I'm a licensed mental health provider practicing in West Dallas, and I'm here to voice my support for both the resolution and the ban on conversion therapy. The practice of conversion therapy has been found by the independent forensic expert group to violate, quote, violate the basic human rights of individuals and the standards and ethics of the medical and mental health professions with no medical or scientific validity. The action of conversion therapy is cruel, inhuman, degrading, and in many cases torture, end quote. I believe by passing the resolution and ban that this council is sending a message to our LGBTQI plus sisters and brothers that their rights, health, and safety are important and that they are a valued part of the community. To only pass the resolution and not the ban would suggest that while we do not agree with this, we will also not do anything to protect you from it. It's been raised I've heard that there's been no indication that this is happening in our community, but I suggest that even if this is the case, it is worth passing this resolution and ban in the spirit of harm reduction. There are pro-conversion therapy groups in the state of Wisconsin that travel to communities and even to a person's home. I would hope that we can send a message with the resolution and ban that West Dallas is not only against conversion therapy happening here, it is also not open for recruitment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to address the council under citizen participation?
Well, first off, good evening again. I'm Jessica Katzenmeyer. I am at 7139 West Greenfield Avenue, just right down the street, and I am voicing I am in favor of both the resolution and for the ban tonight. Well, first off, being openly transgender, I have been a victim of conversion therapy myself. Way back in the early 90s, I went through this form of conversion therapy where my parents tried to make me straight, if you want to say. And I could tell you, even now, 30 years later, it's hard to talk about it. The psychological impacts that it has as a child back then to even now as an adult. And I could tell you that it's not just for me, but it's just for any of the children who has been through this horrible form of conversion therapy before. And while a resolution is good, I think it just makes a statement. And whereas the ban would have that underlying action of preventing this from happening in the future. We could pass a resolution, but are we going to wait for something to happen without passing the ban? So if we pass the ban, I think that it would help children to feel safe here in this community. And I do feel like one of the qualities of the city is quality of life. And having ordinances like this on the books helps for LGBTQ people in the city to feel safe, to be safe for who they are, to be safe where they live, and within the rest of the community. So I want to say thank you for letting me have a few minutes of my time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody else wish to address the council under citizen participation this evening?
Hi, my name is Austin Keeler. I'm not a resident of West Dallas, but I reside at 805 Lois Avenue, Brookfield, Wisconsin. I'm also here today to support the ban on conversion therapy as well as the resolution. I'm gay. I grew up gay in Brookfield, which I can tell you was a very difficult thing to do. I didn't really know who I was or what being gay was until my mid-teens. I didn't have anyone to look up to. I didn't have any relatives, family members, or friends who were LGBTQ+, and I didn't really know what that was. When I was growing up, that still wasn't really something that was visible. It wasn't really something in the media. It wasn't something that governments were talking about, or if they were talking about it, it was about Defense of Marriage Act, Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Everything in my life was kind of either reinforcing that being gay was bad, or that I would face violence and discrimination and hate for coming out and identifying who I am. I have not gone through conversion therapy, but I started an organization called People Against Conversion Therapy because of conversations I've had with people like Jessica who've gone through this practice. The trauma and harm it causes people is just, there aren't really words to put it into perspective, what kind of, just how badly this screws people up. And while there isn't evidence that conversion therapy is happening, it doesn't mean that it's not happening in West Dallas. Conversion therapy practitioners operate in the shadows. Like this medical professional told you, they travel around the state. We know this. And by banning conversion therapy, not just the resolution, I support the resolution as well, but I don't think that goes far enough. We need to ban conversion therapy like we have in Milwaukee, Madison, Eau Claire, lots of other municipalities around the state. And the reason they take bans instead of just a resolution is because the more places in this state that they can't practice, the harder it is for them to practice. So yes, it might not affect any practitioners in the city currently, but it will protect youth from any future practitioners or anyone who's trying to travel to West Dallas. It'll make West Dallas not an option as more municipalities ban this until we can hopefully eventually get to a statewide ban. I'd also briefly like to tell you from the youth that I've heard after we've banned conversion therapy in their municipalities, what that meant to them, what that statement of support from their local government saying that their identities were valid and that they weren't going to let people try and change them in very harmful ways, what that meant to them. And I can tell you, growing up, had I been seeing that kind of support from my local government, it would have been life-changing. It would have changed a lot of things, and it would have made a lot of things easier. So I'm asking you to keep all of those things in consideration, not just stopping people who might be doing it now, but stopping people from coming here and practicing conversion therapy, but also what that message sends to LGBTQ plus youth in West Dallas, because I promise you it means the world to them. Thank you for your time, and again, I encourage you to vote yes on both the resolution and the ban. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to address the council under citizen participation? Okay. Seeing none, we will close citizen participation and move on to item F, where I will announce our standing committees will be meeting during recess. Those room numbers are listed on the top of page 2 on your agendas. Next up is item G, the mayor's report. I have a few things this evening. First off, as a lot of you know, former West Dallas Alderman Ralph West passed away in mid-July. And I just want to take a moment to offer condolences to his friends and his family. I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Joan Hanson.
Joan,
from the
we have you
Chamber.
coming up shortly on the your item 5 on our agenda. Thank you.
I come up now?
No, we'll call you up shortly. We have I couldn't see you sitting back there. Thank you. Sorry. So yeah, I just wanted to offer condolences from the city to the family of Alderman West and his passing. And similarly, I want to offer condolences to the family friends about the passing of Kent Kemmerline, who was before this body last year with Ryan Knodel, who was a West Dallas Special Olympian who went to Abu Dhabi for the World Games. Ken passed away from COVID-19 a few weeks ago. He was also a very popular bartender at Stenny's, and his loss really is going to leave a hole. He was a very large personality. He was a very kind man and will be missed by many. And lastly, I just want to mention with the COVID-19 rates increasing, the city, as you may know, is participating in a Mask Up campaign. The West Dallas Health Department is having a free face mask or face covering drive-through. The first one is Thursday, August 6th at 3 o'clock. And the second one is Tuesday, August 11th from 9 a.m. until noon. This will be held at 72nd and National in the parking lot across from the health department. They will be giving away face coverings for people in West Dallas that would like to. That does conclude the mayor's reports this evening. Do we have any alderpersons' reports?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Rote?
I would just like to say kudos to the West Dallas Police Department for solving an 11-month-old murder in our city here a few days ago. They just never gave up on this one, and thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Tenorio?
So I just want to inform everyone that the Liberty Heights Park Neighborhood Association, we're having a town hall on August 12th. That's a Wednesday at 6 o'clock to 7:30 on public safety in the community. That'll be at the farmers market, and just want to invite the public to that.
Thank you. Any other alderpersons' reports?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move for approval of the minutes of the Common Council meeting of July 14th, 2020.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Are there any changes to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Standing committee reports, we have none.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move that we stand in recess until conclusion of the committee meetings.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in recess, and now we will move on to the committee of the whole, where Ms. Hanson, you will be called up shortly.
Committee of whole meeting will come to order. Let it be noted all members are present, and we have one item on the agenda this evening. That's a discussion and presentation from Joan Hanson regarding plans for expansion of Wauwatosa West Allis Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to come here this evening. I'm very excited about it. First of all, thank you, Mayor and members of the Common Council. I'm Joan Hanson. I am the Executive Director of the Wauwatosa West Allis Chamber of Commerce. And I just wanted to give a little bit of background on how I got here. I joined the Wauwatosa Chamber of Commerce as the Executive Director not quite a year ago. And at that time, I came in, the Wauwatosa Chamber only had a part-time executive director, and there were a lot of discussions with our board on how do we remain viable. And there were a lot of conversations preceding me starting this position about, we should be expanding to West Allis. And we had several board members interested in that. We actually have several business members who are from West Allis already. State Fair Park is a member of our board. And with those previous discussions, when I came on, that became one of my goals as well, obviously, to move that forward with the board. And we think it's a great idea because obviously our borders align. We already have some West Allis members. From a, like any business, from a viability perspective, we're trying to pivot like a lot of businesses are right now during kind of these challenging times. So our board approved it, and, we had some conversations with the mayor, and we just proceeded with this. And just overall, I wanted to give, this is, happened very quickly, but I just wanted to give you some of, our perspective, my perspective on how we want to move forward just generally. And so I just want to keep it at a very high level, and I know I have just a few minutes here tonight, but overall, what I'm envisioning is, first of all, we're focusing on getting back to the roots of what chambers do. In other words, why were chambers even created in the first place in the early 1900s? And Wisconsin's got a rich history, on that. And really what it was to promote, obviously, business interests, supporting free enterprise, and in other words, being the voice of business. And, the strength are in numbers. So a lot of chambers around the state do this, but I think locally some of the chambers have gotten away from that. So that's really what we're trying to promote, is just being the voice of business. And, we're really kind of in a unique position to accomplish some of those goals. And, as a starting point, now keep in mind, I haven't even been here a year yet, but as a starting point, everything's a building block, whether it's, what we're doing in Wauwatosa or what we are going to be trying to do here. We created a public policy committee to discuss business issues. Now, this might seem, really basic to some of you folks, and most chambers do that, but our chamber had not been doing that for quite a long time, so we want to, we started that. We also started, and probably I consider this really to be fairly significant. And again, a lot of chambers already do this, but we started a public officials, breakfast. And we've been a little bit on hold with the pandemic, and we're doing a lot more through webinars and Zooms. But just as an example, we had an open mayoral seat, which you probably knew. So we did a forum for the two candidates. We didn't endorse anybody, but we did a forum for our business members so they could meet the candidates. And then after Mayor McBride won, then we invited him back so he could explain his agenda for the city, and so our folks could have a conversation with them, and that's gone over really well. And another example, we had one of our state senators in for a Zoom meeting so our business folks could meet him. Another example is we had our police chief Weber in for a lunch and things like that. So although that might sound, basic, we're just trying to get the chamber up to speed and allow those opportunities for businesses. Sometimes what I found over the years is, sometimes business folks are a little bit afraid to, call their alder person or call the mayor or call their state legislator. We want to just make it easy for the lines of communication to remain open. The other things that we did for, how we partnered with the city of Wauwatosa, for example, they had a lot of grant opportunities available during the pandemic. And so we were really worked with them closely to keep those lines of communications open so that businesses knew about that. Did the same thing with WEDC, the same thing with the PPP loans and things like that. So, our ideas are just to keep these moving because sometimes business folks are so busy that they just need the information right there so they can just get going and participate in that. And then secondly, kind of the other big bucket of what we're working on are the traditional things that you might see chamber members participating in. And that's to build on what was happening, but I want to try to bring, a lot more opportunities to businesses that they may not have had in the past. And I'm trying to bring more education and training to businesses, whether they're small or large. Whether you need to learn about financials, whether you need to learn about cybersecurity and things like that. Next month, I'm having, for example, the Wisconsin Hospital Association in, and they've got a fantastic dashboard on COVID, and they'll talk about some of those kind of things. So I'm trying to bring some statewide interest to the business community here locally. And then we'll build on, in addition to kind of some of those educational programs, I've worked, with the school district to try to work with them on their launch program and connect them with businesses and training there. I'm working with Employ Milwaukee is on our board, trying to bring maybe more job fairs when things start moving. And then the other things would just be the kind of the fun traditional stuff. Yesterday we had our annual golf outing, and I learned that in the past West Dallas had their golf outing at the same time, not at the same time, but at the same location. So I want to try to make sure we keep that energy going or get it going again. And just also trying to have fun events, whether it's after hours, networking, whatever it might be. So those are kind of the two buckets of, programming and, advocacy that we're working on. And then the other thing that I'm very excited that we just launched in the last couple of weeks is we were really fortunate to bring on Network Health to partner with the chamber. They are our official provider in health insurance, and that is so important, as all of you know, to small businesses, small, medium, and large businesses, but especially small businesses where they sometimes can't afford to provide health insurance if they're real small companies. So they offer, we're partnering with them so that they can offer a reduced rate to businesses. So that's something I believe that our chamber had in the past. I'm not sure about the history on why we didn't anymore, but we're bringing that back on board, and I hope that's really successful in the future for, whoever wants to take advantage of that. So that's kind of high level on where I'm trying to go. But what I'm really, really interested in, what has really helped me since I've started, is I'm really soliciting feedback from all of you, from businesses. I've already met with and talked to quite a few businesses. Want to put together kind of a focus group, because we just want to try to offer, whatever brings value to businesses. And so it's kind of high level, and that's where we're hoping to go in the future. And, I think with that, I'll just close, and if there's any questions, but I appreciate being here.
Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. I'm sure that I speak for the entire council when we say we're thrilled to see the West Allis Chamber of Commerce be resurrected and reinvented again. We were all sorry to see its demise several years ago, and so we're looking forward to working with you. And if any of the council members have any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair?
Alderman Haas.
Yeah, I am aware of at least one business in West Allis that has already joined the new Wauwatosa West Allis Chamber of Commerce, and that's my law firm, Forward Disability Attorneys. And Joan, I'd like a plaque, please. Thank you for being in my office. Thank you in advance.
Thank you for that.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Tenario.
so quick question. So could you touch on this? Like, what is the difference between like the Chamber of Commerce and like a bid, for example? And what would that relationship look like?
Wait, the difference between a chamber and a what?
And like a bid, business improvement district. Yeah.
Like the bid?
Yeah.
Well, so, the bid is part of the city, right? And so a chamber of commerce isn't, part of government at all. I think, honestly, most chambers work very closely with their bids, because obviously it's really in everyone's interest to have, a strong economy, just certainly. And I know we've worked closely with the bid, but the chamber under the law is created as a 501c6. We're really quite unique, to be honest. And so we're a nonprofit business. And because we're under the IRS code of a C6, we're allowed to advocate on behalf of business. We're allowed to speak on behalf of business. So, for example, let's just say all the businesses in Wauwatosa think property tax, or Wauwatosa or West Allis think property taxes are way too high. And let's say our membership thinks the chamber should get involved in that. Well, I might come before you or come before someone else and say, I think the property taxes are too high. Or let's say we love something you are proposing. Conversely, we would come and support it. So we're uniquely positioned to be the voice of business. And, we haven't really, this is all kind of building blocks. I'm not sure that we're going to be doing that right away, and we're not endorsing people right away, but a lot of chambers do that, a lot of the bigger chambers. So that's what the difference is. We're in the private sector. We have a lot of members, who are not just private sector businesses. We have the school districts, or the city. We have a lot of folks who are part of government or the school district, the zoo. So we have a lot of members who are that are formed other than a private sector business. But that's how we're unique. We can go before the legislature if we want, and things like that. So really just the voice of business. You're welcome.
Mr. Chair,
Alderperson Grisham.
Joan, thank you so much for your presentation. I do have a question for you. As far as the connection with elected officials, for example, the first I had heard of the chamber, the merge that was taking place was actually from an article from JS Online. So I really had no background on it. Now, as a business owner, how would businesses get connected with you? What type of marketing are we looking at in joining TOSA?
Well, that's a very good question. So, just last week, we brought on a membership specialist that's going to help us bring on more members and help us with marketing. And it's going to take a lot of social media, a lot of on-the-ground meetings with me and our staff, and I hope that we can generate enough publicity over time that, and obviously we'll be in the community, but hopefully we can generate enough publicities that people want to join. And like any business, we're gonna just have to do it through marketing. Some businesses are really in a tough situation right now. So if somebody, just with the pandemic and having, a lot of folks have closed down for a while, I'm also trying to say, come on board, if you need to have 3 or 6 months free of membership, fine, but just come and learn what we're about. And, for our events, we put it out through social media as well. We just have to be stronger in that space, and that's what I'm hoping to do with our new membership person.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I already paid, and I just heard I could get 3 or 6 months free. No, I'm only teasing.
Right?
I know.
If there's no further questions, thank you very much for your presentation this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Is there
I
a
look
motion to
forward to
adjourn the
working with
committee of the whole?
everyone.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, well, then the Administration and Finance Committee will come to order, but
Are
Well, let the other guys leave.
separating?
Yeah.
You guys are in the
Yeah.
room
Give 'em a minute to
G12.
leave.
Yeah. That's pretty quick, Haas.
Yeah, Aufstand,
sorry.
Beckhan.
Okay, give us time to leave.
Yeah, I know.
Get out of here.